when there's too many.
Huh?
It's a known thing in TF2 that teams work best when you have an even spread of different classes. The different classes have different purposes, and if you have too many of one, then the counterplay for the enemy team becomes way simpler. But with no class is this more apparent than with Spy. Of all the classes, Spy is by far the most important class to not stack. There are multiple reasons for this, but let's first talk about what each class is good for. While the game does categorize the classes on the selection screen as offense, defense, and support, these categorizations are woefully outdated. Realistically, the roles are more spread out into power, pick, and support. Power classes make up the main bulk of the team's front line, getting into big fights. This is comprised of Soldier, Pyro, Heavy, and Demo. These classes are generally the easiest to get away with stacking due to being the front force of the team. Though each do still have specific strengths and weaknesses in how they deal damage, so a spread is still recommended. Pick classes are known for being able to quickly pick off key targets unexpectedly. These are made up of Scout, Sniper, Spy, as well as Soldier, who actually overlaps into being both power and pick. Support is comprised of Medic and Engineer. Medic keeps the team healthy, strengthening the power classes, and creates pushes with his Uber, while the Engineer establishes a solid backline for other players to fall back to, quickly killing the odd overconfident Scout. However, the Pyro also overlaps into support with his ability to spy check and protect players with Air Blast.
Nice rocket, but what if?
Then finally, the Spy also overlaps into support, as while he has the ability to get picks, he is a keen disruptor of the enemy team, being able to get into their lines, sap buildings, get picks while hiding in plain sight, and just generally be really annoying. While support classes can assist a good team, the biggest weakness of support is when there is no good team to bolster. Pyro has limited range, Engineer gets taken down easily by focus fire, Medics need power classes to heal and push forward, and Spy needs his team to take the attention off of him. As a Spy, the players that you're almost always going to get a backstab on are players that are busy with something else. That something usually being fighting the rest of your team. People say disguises don't work, but that's because they don't hold up under scrutiny. If a player is actively engaging members of the enemy team, they don't have the time to check if every new teammate that enters their sight is a Spy if nothing seems off at a glance. As Spy, a big thing to be aware of is where your team is in relation to the enemy. You take distractions that your team causes to pick off unsuspecting players. If you think Spies only happen to come after you right as you start firing, that's because it's literally their job. On that note, if smart teammates see you approaching the enemy from behind, they'll draw their attention away from you in order to secure a kill. Spies can often save teammates who are being pursued by other players because of their tunnel vision. Players need good distractions for the Spy to take advantage of, but the more Spies you have, the less teammates you have to cause distractions, and the higher the demand is for said distractions, therefore making the French market crash. Not to mention, Spies that accidentally get a player's attention can lead them right into another, making it even worse. And you've got less of the power classes holding the front line, making it easier for the enemy to push. But then, there's what happens to the enemy players' minds when there's too many Spies. Spy is the whole reason that players will turn around seemingly at random. Backstabs are instant and deadly if you aren't paying attention. When a good Spy starts working their way through the enemy team, players will become even more wary in an attempt to counter the sneaky French threat. This is why, as a Spy, it's really important to try and keep track of which players are more paranoid, and how paranoid they're likely to become. This allows you to strategize and be one step ahead of them. This is much easier when you're the only Spy. You're the only source of Spy paranoia for the enemy team. You can more easily judge how fast it'll go up and down, and you have more control of its pace. Two smart Spies can potentially play off each other and create an opening for their teammate. However, throw in a third or fourth Spy in there, and now you have no idea. Because each Spy is acting on their own, and a player you've never interacted with might suddenly go spy check happy because they're trying to catch someone else and just get you in the crossfire instead, especially if they're aware they're dealing with multiple Spies. It doesn't just make people more paranoid than usual, but it gives you a much harder time knowing how it's going to happen. You just get a bunch of uncoordinated Spies, none of which have control over the situation. That, or you get the other scenario, where one Spy is actually doing really well, causing the enemy team to become paranoid of them specifically. However, this completely cannibalizes the other less experienced spies, as the enemy team's spy checking often ends up catching the other spies instead, causing them to struggle to get anything done. The less experienced spies in these situations often don't realize that this is happening, and the player that's doing well usually picked spy when there were originally none, so the other spies actively saw the obvious warning signs before picking a class, and still did it anyway. So what do you do? If you go to pick a class and there are no spies, no problem, go ahead. If there already is one, you can still make it work if you're both smart, but if there's already two or more, whatever you do, don't pick spy! Unless your team or group of friends is intentionally doing it for the memes, it's just straight up never a good idea to pick spy if you already have at least two. Never. Sure, it may be fine in a game where half the server is goofing off, or you planned it out in advance and are actually coordinated, but 3 or more spies running around trying to do their own thing does not work. Sometimes I play TF2 without an alias, start playing spy, and some people who recognize me for some reason think it's a good idea to also switch to spy. Even as a spy main, even if I'm doing way better than the other spies, even if I was spy first, even I'll often switch class if I realize that my team has idiotically decided to stack spy. Good spies know that stacking doesn't work, and will try to avoid it. If you actively choose to play spy when there were clearly already too many, it shows me that you clearly don't know what you're doing. Don't stack spy. Seriously.